Amiibos, Nintendo's first effort to jump on the toy-to-life trend that rose in the early 2010s. And it worked. Before Amiibos, the first instance of toy-to-life figurines that received commercial success were Skylanders. Do y'all remember Skylanders? Because I remember Skylanders. Literally all of my friends back in the day were hopping on that game. And so was I. Shortly after that, there was Disney Infinity, which was the same concept, but with Disney and Pixar characters. Then Nintendo was like, wait, we should do something like that too. And that was when the Amiibo was born. Initially kicking off with the release of Super Smash Bros. On the Wii U, Amiibo eventually grew more and more compatible with other games. And what was the perfect game for Nintendo to make Amiibo for? Animal Crossing. With so many characters, it only made sense for them to introduce something new. Amiibo cards. And at first, people loved them. You could finally invite any villager you wanted to move into your town. However, as time went on, the want for these cards died down, and so did the production of them. Until the game we know and love, Animal Crossing New Horizons, came out. This is when things started to take an unexpected turn for Animal Crossing Amiibos. Amiibo cards weren't being produced anymore, so the want for these cards grew dramatically, and so did the price. These Amiibos were now seen as some novelty item, and people wanted them badly, but would they be willing to pay this new expensive price for them? This new demand was eventually met once Nintendo decided to reprint the original cards, do the Sanrio cards, and even introduce a whole new series of cards. Sales were at an all-time high, and Amiibos were finally getting the justice they deserved. Now, almost 5 years later, there isn't much talk of these Amiibos anymore. So what happened exactly? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the rise and fall of Animal Crossing Amiibos. So let's go ahead and get started.
Amiibo! With new Amiibo cards, you can invite animals to join the party at your favorite spots around town.
These Animal Crossing Amiibo cards, I just couldn't help it. I stopped by a lot of Best Buys and they happen to have them.
The game supports Amiibo figures and Amiibo cards from the Animal Crossing series.
Some prices have doubled, some have tripled, some have even quadrupled. The prices for some of these cards are more than Animal Crossing New Horizons at this point.
The way that everything went down with the Sanrio Amiibo re-release in March 2021 left a lot of fans really upset.
I'm going to break this video up into different segments since there wasn't just one rise and one fall with these Amiibos. The actual name for this video should be The Rise and the Fall and the Rise and the Rise Again and the Fall of Animal Crossing Amiibos. I think that made sense. Let's break down the first rise. The first series of the Amiibo cards came out with the release of Happy Home Designer on July 30th, 2015. Series 1 of the cards contained 100 characters, 17 of them being special characters and 83 of them being regular villagers. The cards were released in a blind bag of 6 cards featuring 1 special character and 5 villagers. They generally went for about $5.99 per pack. The functionality of the cards at first only dealt with Happy Home Designer and could be used to design houses for specific villagers or even special characters. Besides designing houses, you could also invite them to other villagers' houses to have like a little party. The first wave of the Amiibo figurines that were released included Isabelle in her winter outfit and Digby in the Amiibo Festival bundle, KK Slider, Reese, Cyrus, Mabel, Lottie, and Tom Nook. Also, it's worth mentioning that in the Amiibo Festival bundle, it also came with 3 special cards featuring Rosie, Goldie, and Stitches, and I love them with my whole heart. This initial release of Animal Crossing Amiibos was perceived pretty well. However, with Amiibo Festival and Happy Home Designer being spin-off games rather than mainline games, these Amiibo hadn't really reached their full potential yet. Nintendo proceeded to release Series 2 through 4 through 2015 until July of 2016. Each consisted of 100 cards, 17 special characters, and 83 villagers, except Series 4 had 16 special characters and 84 regular villagers. From the end of 2015 to the beginning of 2016, Wave 2 of the Amiibo figurines included and Wave 3 included Timmy and Tommy, Rover, Captain, and Isabelle in her summer outfit. The figurines and the cards still sold well, more for Happy Home Designer than Amiibo Festival. But then the Animal Crossing New Leaf Welcome Amiibo update came out and it introduced the feature that we know these cards for to this day. You could use these cards to invite any villager you wanted to move to your town. It was finally the first form of villager customization in the game, and this is where the cards reached their first peak. Nintendo even made a new series of Amiibo cards called the Welcome Amiibo Pack, which included 50 returning villagers villagers from the original Animal Crossing game. These cards presented a different design than the typical amiibo cards, with the art showing the villager outside the window of an RV and their furniture. A nice touch Nintendo did that further hyped up these cards was they included one random Welcome Amiibo card in every new game box. I remember when I bought New Leaf for the second time, it was the Welcome Amiibo edition, and I actually got Vivian in mine. Animal Crossing Amiibos had finally gotten the recognition they deserved, and this is what drove the demand at the time. It's also worth noting that shortly after this update came out, Nintendo released the Sanrio cards exclusively in Japan and Europe. However, even with the new features this update brought to New Leaf, it still wasn't enough to keep players around for a long period of time. This led to the first fall of Animal Crossing Amiibo. From 2017 to 2019, players were patiently waiting around for the next Animal Crossing game. I mean, it was 8 years before the next mainline game came out. Obviously, with the hype from Happy Home Designer, Amiibo Festival, and the Welcome Amiibo update having significantly died down at this point, the cards weren't really a necessity anymore. These Amiibos could still be found at places like Walmart and Toys R Us, just sitting there collecting dust. Retail stores were tossing these cards on the clearance shelves and marking them down just to ultimately get rid of them. Nintendo took notice of this and began to stop the production of these cards just to help with the overflow. I also realized while writing this video that the Super Smash Bros. Isabelle amiibo came out in 2019, and why is she low-key a baddie? Like, don't get it twisted though, these amiibos, especially the cards, did exceptionally well in their prime from 2015 to 2016. The couple years following that didn't really give them the justice they deserved. But then Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, and things for these amiibos were about to take a very unexpected turn. For the second rise, we're gonna call this the Pandemic Rise, as this takes place during the beginning months of Animal Crossing New Horizons. When Animal Crossing New Horizons was released, it honestly took the world by storm. There were millions of returning players along with a huge surge of brand new players since this game came out right when lockdown had started. And with this game having amiibo compatibility and the move-in feature from New Leaf, we were about to see a huge resurgence of Animal Crossing amiibos. Like I mentioned before, during the first fall, Nintendo had completely stopped the production of these amiibos. But with this massive influx of new players, how was this going to play out? The demand for these cards became insane. People who had held onto these cards from their initial surge in 2016 either kept them because they were now more valuable, or they sold them because they were now more valuable. More popular villagers were going for crazy amounts of money. For example, this Reddit user pointed out that people were selling Marshall's card for $40 and even $60, which is like insane for a tiny piece of plastic with a chip in it. And the same thing happened to other popular villagers like Anka, Diana, and Stitches. This price spike was not just happening to the cards individually, but also the packs of cards. Originally going for a small price of $5.99 in 2015 to 2016, they rose to even going for $50 per pack. I mean, you can't really blame these sellers because I'm sure they probably made bank. People always say, don't hate the player, hate the game. And in this case, the player is all of us, and the game is Animal Crossing, but the battle of having to obtain these cards. I remember during this time, I wanted these cards badly, but I literally couldn't afford them. I actually never got the amiibo cards when they first came out, so the only one I had for the longest time was the Vivian one that came in my New Leaf game. Despite this huge increase in price, people are smart, and when there's a will, there's a way. Thus, the custom Animal Crossing amiibo was born. People took it upon themselves to just start making their own Animal Crossing amiibos to combat these insane prices. I mean, let's be real, Animal Crossing amiibo cards are just near-field communication tags or NFC tags with plastic and art around them. The combination of low availability and high demand for specific villagers made these custom amiibos as popular as the original ones, but sold for so much cheaper. This is actually how I got most of my really popular villagers during that time. I just got their custom NFC tag and they work the exact same. Although I often found myself still wanting the actual cards, but I knew, and we all knew, if we wanted to get these cards, we would have to drop an insane bag on them. You're probably wondering why I haven't really talked about the Amiibo figurines, and that's because the cards were just significantly more wanted than the figurines. The huge demand for these Amiibo cards lasted throughout 2020 until September. Nintendo announced they'd be reprinting the series 1 through 4 cards, and they would be back in stores in November. This obviously was an attempt to combat this new craze for the Amiibo cards. I honestly think the reason why they didn't consider reprinting the cards before New Horizons came out was because they didn't realize that there would be this huge new demand for these cards. Interestingly, Animal Crossing Amiibos didn't fall after this rise, but instead grew to a new peak. We will call this the 2.0 rise. Remember how I mentioned before that Nintendo released the Sanrio cards exclusively in Japan and Europe? Well, during the pandemic rise, the Sanrio cards were extremely rare. There'd be a few listings on various resale sites, but they would always go for like $100 or more. And with New Horizons, people weren't really wanting these cards that much since they only function in New Leaf. Until one fateful day in January of 2021. Nintendo announced they would be re-releasing the Sanrio Amiibo cards exclusively at Target in March of that year. People were ecstatic, including me. We all know what happened when these cards dropped, but I'm gonna tell you guys my experience since it coincides with what everybody else experienced. March 26 eventually rolled around and it was time for me to snatch these cards up. The odd part was, yes, these cards would be released at Target specifically, but only online and for pickup only. Things were going swiftly. I saw the listing, I added them to my car, and I proceeded to go check out. And then boom, an error message pops up saying the cards had been sold out. Sold out? They were literally just listed. I frantically ran to Twitter to see what people were saying, and some people here and there got the cards, but most people were experiencing the same issue. Error messages varying from saying the cards were sold out to just not letting someone buy them were popping up everywhere. Eventually, people started plotting and said that they got the cards by repeatedly adding them to their cart and trying to check out. So I ran back to my Target app and I did just that. And I ended up being one of the lucky ones and I got the cards. But unfortunately, this wasn't the case for most people. The cards technically sold out immediately, and this led to the masses of people being highly disappointed by the rollout of these cards. The biggest issue though was scalpers. These guys rushed to buy these cards just to immediately attempt to resell them at a huge, insane price. But remember, us Animal Crossing players work smarter, not harder. Those custom amiibo workers decided to put in some overtime and started to create custom amiibos for these Sanrio villagers. Of course, it was kind of a bummer for the thousands of people that weren't able to get the cards, but hey, at least, you know, that option was there. Nintendo eventually decided to make a comeback with these cards by releasing them again in September of that year. Yes, the demand was met, but the messy rollout in the beginning still left a lot of fans disappointed. The crazy part though is that the Animal Crossing Amiibo 2.0 rise hadn't stopped just yet. On October 15th, 2021, Nintendo announced they would be creating a brand new series of cards, and this was the first time this had happened since 2016. Series 5 would include characters like Raymond and Judy that were introduced to Animal Crossing New Horizons, and also feature characters they were bringing back from the original GameCube. This new pack of cards was set to release shortly after the Grand 2.0 update that had fans still riding for New Horizons. Series 5 was also perfect because it not only caused sales to boost for Amiibos, but it also helped solve the huge epidemic of people wanting villagers like Raymond. The Series 5 Amiibos didn't have a messy rollout or anything, and I ended up getting a few packs myself. Animal Crossing Amiibos were now at the highest peak they'd ever reached, but all good things come to an end eventually. The last fall of Animal Crossing Amiibos. The 2.0 update in New Horizons provided players with tons of new stuff to do, and the Amiibos coincided with that excitement. But as we know, that was the last major update for New Horizons, and that's when players steadily started to put the game down. There wasn't much left to do, and certainly not for Amiibos. The Series 5 and Sanrio cards continued to be restocked in stores until eventually the hype for them also dwindled down. Now it's 2025 and there isn't as much as a peep of Animal Crossing Amiibos. In conclusion, Animal Crossing Amiibos have been an overall success over the years. I think what really drove this demand was definitely when they introduced the move-in feature. I actually have a lot of these Animal Crossing Amiibos myself, whether it's the actual cards or just their NFC tag. I think it represents the different rises of the Animal Crossing Amiibos like a little time capsule. Here is a final thought I think is interesting to consider. Obviously, there are no talks about a new Animal Crossing game anytime soon, so Animal Crossing Amiibos will continue to be in this steady decline. But when a new game is eventually released, I'm sure it will have Amiibo compatibility, but will this same demand we've seen persist? Sure, they could reprint the old cards again, and maybe even Series 5 and the Sanrio cards, but I think we've moved past that. And with the huge rise of custom Amiibos, I think people are going to be more willing to buy those since they're more affordable. Who knows what the future holds, and if the interest for these Amiibos will ever cease to be what it was in the past. Thank you guys for watching this video, and let me know your thoughts about Animal Crossing Amiibos. Did you get them back when they were first released in 2015 or 2016, or did you get them during the New Horizons era? Let me know down in the comments. This was the rise and fall of Animal Crossing Amiibos, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.